Oh, I didn't think you were gonna actually say yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd like to, you know. Is
I,
that whipped
I did.
matcha?
I didn't
Sister,
make it. So yeah, it's
who
basically
made it?
with matcha. My sister.
Oh, that's cute. MashaAllah. Jameel. But then Sister Ayat is like, oh God, here we go. Jazakumullah khairan everyone for joining us real quick. We have the wonderful company of Sheikh Umar. This is the Quranversation program, which is a collaboration between the Mecca Movement's Recharge team as well as the ICNU's 1439 folks. And we're very, very blessed to have this gathering yet again, to really come together to discuss the Quran. There's really no better way to spend time than discussing the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hassan Natul wants to let us know that he's also here. And we wanna and we are fully acknowledging him as he would like, inshallah ta'ala. How you doing, Sheikh Umar?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Sheikh Umar, you want to show I remember this shirt from when you were in Medina. This is your yeah. This is his Chicago against the world shirt. It's a classic.
I'm feeling like patriotic, you know, Eliom.
Oh God, remember the last time you were gonna wear, what was it? It was like I forgot. I think it was like a USA shirt. Remember when I told you?
Oh yeah, I have upstairs. I can go change right now.
No, I think
like
we're good. I think we're just.
It's an Olympic shirt. United States of America.
Jameel. Sheikh Umar, over the past couple of sessions in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, we've been talking about Hassan's comment. We've been talking about the verses of the Quran that begin with Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly talks to the believers. And so we talked about a few different verses. We talked about when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, enter into Islam completely. We talked about the verse, O you who believe, remember Allah abundantly, right? So we've been talking about that. We've been talking about why those ayat are so important. Anything you'd like to start us off with today?
I think I'd like to hear you start us out today, because I think I started the past few times. And
I don't know about that.
You're taking shots at my drink and my.
I was just
my shirt.
No, I get happy to see you. For a while, Sheikh Umar and I were neighbors, so I would see him often, and so now there's like this distance, but that's okay, inshallah. In any case, I think for me, when we talk about the verses of the Quran that begin with Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, one of the ones that you hear typically in like more challenging times. Even in our culture, it's usually indicative of being at like a aza or something like that. Is those verses of the Quran where we have Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. Or you who believe. How would you translate that, Sheikh Umar? I haven't opened it in the Mus'haf. Ista'inu, seek help, seek assistance,
seek aid. Through patience and through prayer. In Allah sabirin. Yeah, God is with those who are patient.
No.
First of all, Sister Ayat, why would I have a green wall like this in my house? Like, I'm sorry, Tariq, I just have to address this. Like, it's a green screen. Come on. What kind of wall would I have in my house?
Okay, she recognized it. She said,
like I'm on Zoom.
By the way, the walls in the Jamia, do you remember in the Mahad? The walls were like a mint lime, almost a pink green colored. And I remember discussing with Sheikh Jamil. He was like, "Who would ever paint their walls this color?" And so that was very interesting to observe. That being said, we're talking about the verse Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. O you who believe, Sheikh Umar broke it down for us. Seek help, seek aid, seek assistance, right? Through patience, bis-sabri was-salah. And one of the things I've kind of been reflecting on Sheikh Umar is that sabr is not really literally just patience, right? It's a combination of patience, perseverance, and resilience, I would say. This idea of sabr is not just being patient. We talked about that in this ayah in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu, right? O you who believe, be patient, and then be patient again, right? And we talked about that some of the scholars of tafsir say it is to be patient with our patience even, right? So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, seek the help of Allah, or seek ista'inu, seek help through patience and perseverance and prayer. Inna Allah ma'as sabirin. Immediate thoughts and reflections on this, Sheikh Umar. Just reactions to the ayah.
So the immediate reaction that I have to it is just, it's something that I was just thinking about recently. I forgot what brought it up, but this idea that looking at our acts of worship as opportunities to, here, there you go with the hand sanitizer again. Instead of looking at our actions of worship as burdens, as things that are like they weigh down heavy on us, like just like we're trying to, check it off the list. Like sometimes we may look at them, looking at them instead as sources of comfort for us, as sources of as having basically an opportunity to find internal peace, to find internal comfort, right? I'm just getting a little bit thrown off here, but what's better? A sip of Delgona. But basically, changing our perspective towards our ibadah, changing our perspective towards our ibadah, and finding a comfort in them. I remember a long time ago, I was sitting and I was listening to a dars from Mufti Hussein Kamani. Like this was like before, I think this was like right when he came back from studying. And I remember we were in the basement of one of the brothers' houses at a barbecue. And then we were in the basement, we prayed, and then he came, he spoke a little bit. And one of the things he said was he mentioned this idea of if our ibadah is a burden to us, if we look at it as a burden, it's something that's going to be very difficult for us to maintain and for us to continue on with. But if we look at it for what it was, like here, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning, ista'inu, like seek help, seek assistance, seek Allah's aid through these things. It shows us that that these actions of worship that we engage in, that we may spend time in, that we may find initially maybe burdensome, the ultimate goal of them actually is to ease things for us, to help us through our challenges, through our difficulties.
For sure. And you know what? One of the things that I remember is we were covering fiqh in the Jami'ah, and we were doing the fiqh of salah. And I had a teacher that was particularly, it was like at the end of the day, Umar, you know when it's like close to nap time, and it's like you're trying to get there, and you're thinking about lunch. Do you choose to sleep or do you choose to eat? You know those times.
Yeah.
And I remember having a really dry fiqh teacher that always squinted like he was either trying to wake up or go to sleep. And then, but there was one thing that he mentioned that I'll never forget. It's that he was talking about in sujood, fiqhiyan, you're allowed to only say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la once. It is sufficient, like your salah is complete if you say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la once. But the sunnah is to say it 3 times, maybe more or what have you. And he said something. He said casually, like that this guy meant it, and he was just like living his life. He said, which amongst us would find it enough to say it just 3 times? Like he's like, man nishba. and we would not be satisfied. We would not be content. Our appetites of talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not be satisfied in just saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la 3 times. And I was like, wow, meaning that when he makes sujood, he enjoys that moment. You know, we're talking about seeking the help of Allah through prayer, seeking the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through patience. Those things sound really cool, but they're also very difficult to attain. For your salah to transition from my salah is a burden, my salah is an inconvenience, my salah is requiring sacrifice, to I need my salah, and then after I need my salah, I enjoy my salah, and then after I enjoy my salah, I'm immersed in my salah, I'm loving my salah. Like, that takes a lot. So then our salah stops being something that we're doing, just a casual thing we're doing in our life. It actually becomes something that we look forward to and we live for, and we find peace and patience through engaging in salah. And that's just such a beautiful thing we gain from this ayah, to find the assistance of Allah in our prayers. You know, the idea of when salah is called, every single time that salah is called, the words hayya ala al-falah, come to success, is there, right? And so it's just beautiful to reflect on the peace and the patience and the resilience that can be found by seeking Allah's help through patience and through prayer. And then my favorite part of the ayah, frankly speaking, is inna Allah ma'as sabirin. This the thing about this concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that He's with a people. Inna Allah ma'as sabirin. That indeed Allah is with those who are patient. And so what, like, the idea of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking it upon Himself to say to those who are struggling with challenges that I'm with you. You know what I mean? That I will take care of you. That I will be with you through these trying times. It's just such a beautiful thing.
For sure.
Any other ayat come to your mind?
Yeah. So actually, interesting. On that same note, I'm just looking at the ayah from Surah Al-Ma'idah. Sorry about all this, guys. I don't know what's going on today. I'm not sure how to block, to be honest. I think Plata, can you? So I don't want to. We don't want to just.
I've reported him. We're just a simple people. We're just trying to discuss the Quran. You know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't trying to deal with. Oh my God, people these days. La ilaha illallah. Omar, have you been able to? I've reported, yeah, but
it's all good, yeah. It's a small.
Yeah. So he's been. Is there multiple people, or is it just one?
Inshallah, we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Hassan, my house is not flooded. Thanks for asking.
That's not it.
Wait, what did you do to your screen?
I'm trying to figure out how to access comments. I ended up giving myself a background. Just joke.
All right. Is that snowflakes? How'd you do that?
I don't know. Is that snowflakes? All right. Dude, sorry, I'm just getting distracted here.
Oh wow, this is La ilaha illallah.
What? I'm not seeing anything else. Are you seeing something else? The minute that we figure out technical difficulties, now we have this.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny, Sheikh Ahmad, is I told Uthman today, I said, I'll have you know, we have not had technical difficulties for 2 sessions in a row.
I know. That's what happens. If I knew you could block that easy, I would have blocked Hassan a long time ago.
Well, honestly, it's a simple tap of the screen.
See, I can't block anyone. I think only you can.
I got you. I blocked him, so we should be. Well, I mean, I
okay.
You know.
Yeah, you got it. So it's all on you. It's all on you. Anyways, sorry for that little intermission, but subhanAllah, we got more people joined in. I don't know. That's what we need, just a spammer to come in and cause more people to come. So on that same note, that the ayah actually that kind of stood out to me was the ayah from Surah Al-Ma'idah. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu idha qumtum ila as-salati faghsilu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum. The ayah of wudu. Why that ayah? Why the ayah of wudu? I mean, I think the concept of wudu really, I think, epitomizes for us, or it gives us a beautiful manifestation of the concept of guidance. Like, why when a person uses the bathroom, akramakumullah, do they then, for them to be able to pray salah, are they washing their face and their arms and wiping their hair or their head and then washing their feet, right? It shows us that wudu isn't simply just a physical process, but there's a spiritual reality and there's a spiritual benefit to it as well. Okay, and wudu can be something that is that can be looked at as maybe something burdensome as well too. Like when you're really, really tired, or right when you get up and maybe it's cold and you got to go, and now alhamdulillah we have heat and stuff, but still just to go and to wash yourself and to go through that process. I remember the guy too, he was telling us when he first accepted Islam, right? He wasn't too sure about the rules, and he would wake up for Fajr, and it's just it's so early, and it's dude, I don't have to get up and make wudu. So he would get up from bed, he would slap the wall, he would make tayammum, and then he would pray Fajr in bed. I'm like, dude, that's a good deal. That's a good deal. Except you can't do that. But it was the idea behind it was that was it's something that's kind of to get up and to make that wudu. And even the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions that one of the signs of a believer is isbaghul wudu'i ala al-makarih, to actually do wudu properly, even when the conditions are not ideal or when it's difficult to do so, right?
No.
That's a manifestation of faith, because a person is, going against kind of what's easy for them to fulfill that obligation. And so after this, after Allah mentions this, the steps of wudu, He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that, you can make tayammum if you don't find water. He says, مَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيَجْعَلَ عَلَيْكُم مِّنْ حَرَجٍ وَلَكِنْ يُرِيدُ لِيُطَهِّرَكُمْ وَلِيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. After something that, again, we know and we've seen it in our own lives that it does require that effort. It can be something of difficulty. After that, Allah tells us, مَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيَجْعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't intend to make things difficult for you. In fact, He negates any form of difficulty here at all. He says, مَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيَجْعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. No haraj. He doesn't want you to have excessive difficulty. Allah is not telling you to make wudu in order for you to suffer, in order for you to hate your life, that you have to make wudu and that you kind of have to go through the hardships of that. But He tells us what the benefit is. He says, وَلَكِنْ يُرِيدُ لِيُطَهِّرَكُمْ, that He wants to purify you, right? And the purification, it's not just Like, don't just look at it as the physical purification of wudu. Because we said, like, what's the connection between you using the bathroom or you passing gas, right? Akramakumullah, and then you washing your arms and your face and your feet, right? There's not like a logical connection there. It's not like a rational connection. But that process, you learning how to do this and you going through this and you putting yourself through that, it's in order to purify you. And we know that the wudu, that it's something that there's a spiritual aspect behind it, that it purifies our sins. It's preparing us for what's going to be the ultimate purification, which is the salah, which is what we were just talking about in that first ayah, right? وَلِيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكُمْ, oh my God, to purify you and to complete his blessings upon you, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so you can be thankful. And this shows us this idea, this concept. We were talking about this earlier in Surah Al-Ahzab, when we were talking about Surah Al-Ahzab before, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gives us these rules, he tells us what he is demanding from us or what he's commanding us to do, and then he tells us, right, that إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا, to remove the difficulties, the hardships, because sometimes our own actions cause us hardship. The consequences of our own of what we do, what our own hands do, it causes us the greatest form of hardship and difficulty. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us these rituals, gives us these actions of worship in order for us to be purified, and we can look at our ibadah like this, not as a hardship, not as a burden, but as something that is in our greatest benefit.
Jameel. I think that idea of looking at it as our biggest benefit is something we see time and time again as the prophetic model, right? That the Prophet ﷺ used to flee to salah. He used to turn to salah. He used to do everything that he can to encourage the Sahaba to have that connection in their salah, because it was there within their salah that they were able to find that peace, that comfort, that divine support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was no place that it could be attained except in salah. So using that as a model, and I love, Sheikh Umar, the way that you connected salah and wudu as a form of this preparation, this minor one second. This minor spiritual cleansing that takes place, that prepares us for salah, like this greater purification that takes place. And I think there's something to be said about purification, right? And what it means when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says liyutahhirakum. I think that we need to think about what we need to be purified from, right? We need to be purified from our sins. We need to be purified from our bad habits. We need to be purified from the things that we do consistently that might be taking us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so salah serves as that kind of that rebound that we have, this consistent cleaning. And that's why there's this hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that talks about there being a river in front of the house. And if a person were to go into this river consistently or constantly, would they have any filth on them? That's what salah is. We physically purify ourselves to prepare ourselves to spiritually purify ourselves. And so recognizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he speaks directly to us, he's reminding us to do that, subhanahu wa ta'ala, this idea of actually purifying ourselves both physically and spiritually. Any other ayat that come to your mind, Umar?
Sheikh Tariq, ayat is saying if you can, there's like 3 dots there, just turn off the comments. I can't do it from my side. If you can do it, inshallah. So we're gonna yeah, there you go. Okay, sorry about that, guys.
I couldn't see comments as I couldn't see her messages if she was messaging.
Yeah, no problem. So So we usually like to keep the comments on to kind of give people the opportunity to engage and to ask their questions and to comment. And it's nice to see, people kind of getting on and joining and giving their feedback and stuff. But for today, inshallah, we're just gonna skip that. So it's just gonna be me and you, and then the little hearts there that are popping up in the screen.
We'll take the love. We'll take the love, inshallah.
We'll take the little hearts. Those little hearts motivate me. Like I see them and I just feel like I feel loved. I mean, there they are.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, Allahumma barak.
Like they're different. They're different colors. Sometimes one comes up. Sometimes it's like 40 at once.
There you are. There's more of them.
And it's just, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's the love of Ramadan. May Allah bless every single person who sent a heart, and those who didn't. You know what? You know who's probably really confused right now? The people on Facebook. Like, what are you guys talking about? What's going on?
There's a reason, Sheikh Omar, why people probably do not attend much on Facebook.
Yeah, someone was telling me yesterday. They were like, "Yeah, I was watching one of the videos with you guys, and you guys spent the first 12 minutes figuring out how to use the video." So that's what the video was about. It was 12 minutes of you guys just figuring out how to have a video. I'm like, all right, it's a lot more difficult than it looks. Okay, so just take it easy. People need to realize that technology is not as simple and straightforward as it's made out to be. Don't believe everything that you see on TV.
There's definitely more of those ayat, ya ayyuhalladhina amanus. I'm sure you've got your thoughts on, Sheikh Omar.
It's just you trying to say, let's get back on top.
Yeah.
Actually, I gave the last one, so it's your turn.
I mean, I have an ayah,
I want you to give the ayah, but I just want, like, I know we kind of got thrown off, a little distracted, but I really, and it's a reminder, wallahi, to myself. But I think that this is important in us being able to cherish and value our ibadah. Is turning it into something that is that we recognize as a spiritual opportunity rather than a like spiritual shackle, or like, a physical shackle, and it's something we all have to work on and stuff as well. But that, I think, allows us to find more like meaning in those things as well, if we look at them instead of like, go ahead.
No, I was thinking, like, because remember salah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we talked about 2 verses so far, Sheikh Omar. I'm just trying to like recalibrate here, forgive me. One of that we talked about, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, seek the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through patience and through prayer, right? Through salah. And salah is a generic term that means like our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Our sila, our link with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other verse that you took us to, Sheikh Omar, may Allah bless you, is, O you who believe, when you get up to prayer, إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, and then it goes through the steps of wudu, and you beautifully talked about this idea of how wudu is like this act of worship that prepares us for another act of worship. And I think that this idea of liberating ourselves from looking at salah as a shackle to looking at salah as a retreat is so important.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Like if you look again and again at the lives of the Prophet alayhimus salam ajma'in, what they retreated to, in the most difficult and challenging moments of their life was the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you find Adam alayhi salam being, removed from Jannah, what do you find him doing? You find him making dua. When you find Ibrahim alayhi salam, building the Kaaba, the most monumental experience that a person can go to, you find him retreating to dua. When you find Nuh alayhi salam on the ark with the believers, the handful of believers that he had, again you find him making dua. When you find Yusuf alayhi salam in a prison, you find him making dua. When you find Musa alayhi salam, leaving Egypt, you find him, fleeing from Fir'aun, you find him making dua. At the miraculous birth of Musa alayhi salam, of Isa alayhi salam rather, you find Isa alayhi salam making dua. When you find Maryam alayhi salam under the tree, giving birth to a child, or even in the mihrab, in her place of worship, you find her making dua. The idea that I'm trying to deliver here is that the prophetic tradition is to retreat to prayer. It is to find solace and peace and comfort in prayer, no matter the magnitude of what we're experiencing. That you're not going to be able to retreat to anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can retreat to your wealth, but that's not going to work. You can retreat to your false security, false sense of stability, but that's not going to work. Or you can retreat to Allah, and with that we find that is where true patience and perseverance and resilience is found, inshallah ta'ala.
Definitely. I mean, I think that was what the Prophet ﷺ did, right? Is that, the hadith mentions that whenever something like weighed down on him or bothered him, or, when he was kind of hit with anything that was of difficulty, that he used to rush to the salah. He used to rush to the salah. So and he said it, وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ, that the coolness of my eye, like where my comfort was, is in salah. And so it's a good question for us to ask ourselves, like, what do we rush to and what do we go to when we are going through hardships and difficulties? Like for me, it's food. Just being, you know what I mean? Like you find comfort, and it's okay to find comfort in food and stuff, but like, what's our ultimate source? Got some hearts for that one. It's like, where's our ultimate source of comfort? Where's our ultimate source of, of retreats? That these things that are around us. Yes, of course, we can find benefit, we can find comfort in them, but where's that ultimate source of pleasure being found? And the Prophet ﷺ tells us that. And it's interesting because in the same hadith where he says, جُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ, that hadith starts by him saying, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that he loved certain things from this dunya, right? So he did find pleasure, he did find, joy in certain things from this dunya. So that's okay to have, and that's, it's natural, it's good to have. But then his ultimate source of peace and ultimate source of comfort was with Allah. It was with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's, again, I think that's something that we always talk about, like, how do we improve on our salah and how do we benefit from our salah? And usually what's the first thing that we say? Well, what do we tell people? We tell people, like, learn the meaning, right? Learn the meaning of what you're saying. But I remember one of our teachers, even before that, and that's usually the first answer I would give. Meaning, know the meaning, know what you're saying, know who you're talking to, these things. He took a step before that, and he said to know what the value of that salah is, what that salah is supposed to be in your life, what it has the opportunity to become for you, and what it was to the Prophet ﷺ, and then the whole Isra and Mi'raj and what he was going through and all that stuff, which is maybe not kind of under what we're talking about here, so we won't go too into that. But when you recognize that that's what the salah can be for you, and not just your difficult moments, but also in your good moments, in your times of ease, it can be that, like, just rejuvenation, recharge, reconnection with Allah. That gives us, I think, a greater appreciation, a greater value in it.
No doubt, that's beautiful, mashallah.
Did you notice how? Like, it doesn't bother me, but I'm just making an observation here. But did you notice how when we got rid of the comments and the trolls, the amount of people on also decreased?
Interesting
indeed. Significantly too. It's not like one or two,
It's a filtering process, it seems.
Yeah, or just boring.
Alhamdulillah, I can definitely say that you're spitting gems, mashallah. That thought of visiting our salah as a source of retreat, that the idea of looking to our salah in that prophetic way that says that I'm going to find relief in my salah is something that's so important. And one thing to think about is that in Ramadan, we might have felt that in a greater way than we do outside of Ramadan, and to really capitalize on that progress. Capitalize on the progress that we've made with our prayers in Ramadan.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if we're like one thing that's really interesting, Sheikh Ahmed, that I've been kind of thinking about is we've been praying Tarawih at home, right? We've been praying, maybe witr at home more than usual. We've been praying in jama'ah with our families a little bit more. It's going to be very awkward if, like, the day after Eid, everybody's like, yeah, I'm going to pray Fajr in my room, you pray Fajr in your room. We go from praying Isha and Tarawih and witr together to now, like, nobody's praying together. And so it will really show us our true colors after Ramadan to see how much of, obviously, Ramadan is a special season that brings out a particular level of motivation and inspiration for us, but really to translate that into maintenance after Ramadan, at least to a particular degree. Like, yeah, we're not going to be praying 8 rak'at together. Maybe one day a week we will pray 8 rak'at together, for a Thursday nights or Friday nights or Saturday nights, whatever works for you and your family to pray together. Maybe we're not going to pray as many prayers together, but maybe one prayer a day as a family, whether it's Isha or Fajr, we do still pray it together. So whatever progress we've made with our salah during this time, it's so critical that we keep it, because that's where we can find that relief and that retreat that salah is meant to serve as,
Amen.
And what's really awesome is to observe how many hadith are narrated in which Aisha or Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anil jamia, they find the Prophet Muhammad praying. Like, it was common to find him praying because the Prophet loved to retreat to his prayer. So it was his way of chilling and relaxing,
For sure. And that's what we find ourselves. Like, if we enjoy something, if we find comfort in it, we'll naturally gravitate towards it. Right? Like, no one has to tell me to go and eat, right? Mm-hmm. Because you find comfort in that. So you, like, when you want that comfort, you'll go straight to the fridge, or you'll go straight to DoorDash or Grubhub or whatever it may be, right? And fill in that blank with whatever it is that you find your comfort in. And the goal is, and it's a process and it's a journey, but the goal is to recognize the value of the salah, to turn that into at least one of the main things that we can find that same comfort in, and that same level of, like, consolation and reach something that we can retreat to, right?
And even when we think of, like, just you inspired this thought, Sheikh Ahmed. Even when we think about like Allah is Al-Wahhab, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gifts. And so to think that one of the things that Allah gifted to us, and you mentioned it beautifully, this idea of when salah, contextualizing salah, right? Like, when it happened, why it came to Muhammad sallallahu. When we think about the fact that Allah gifted us salah, right? Like, when we ask ourselves, what have we done with that gift of salah that He's given to us? That opportunity to speak to Him. Like, for example, like no matter how much I love Sheikh Ahmad, frankly speaking, I don't talk to him 5 times a day. And you find that we have the opportunity to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day as a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so how are we taking advantage from that appointment that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consistently?
For sure. And I think another thing, the last thing on this, but is that journey, though, like, even when you appreciate it, even when you recognize it, even when you give it value, that journey takes time, like we said, but it also takes, like, kind of struggling against yourself in some ways, like, getting up when you don't want to get up, and maybe you're not super feeling it and you still push yourself to do it. It takes kind of overcoming some of your nafs is kind of pushing you in another way to get it done. And that it reminds me of I think the statement of, like, Sufyan al-Thawri, I think it was. He said, like, I struggled with my salah, I think it was qiyam, he was talking about specifically, for 20 years before I could enjoy it for another 20 years. right? And so it's not something that maybe like you go and you go to it right away and you're just like, dude, I'm expecting to feel like I'm gonna be on the clouds and the sky's gonna open up for me and
Disney magical experience.
Yeah, like, oh, and I had a dream that I was in Jannah and I'm good, right? That's not always how the I don't know always if that ever happens, but that's not how the process works, right? But it may take a level of fighting against your own desires, fighting against that feeling of I don't want to do this, I'm struggling with this, and it may be like you're just continuously knocking until that door opens it, and then you taste the sweetness in that. And so this is also something that's really, really important, I think, is that we don't always, it's not about necessarily always a feeling. Sometimes we chase a feeling, right? We expect that when we do something, that for it to be effective or beneficial, we necessarily have to feel a certain way. We talked about this last week kind of on a different note with like the crying. Like we have to cry in this context or something's wrong with us, right? So here it's this idea like that I don't necessarily have this spiritual high feeling that I felt that one time and that's what I need.
Start chasing the feeling.
Start chasing the feeling. But you having the wherewithal, I like that word, wherewithal.
I like it. Good.
You having the intention.
Go ahead, say it. Wherewithal.
And the struggle. I'm doing tafsir of wherewithal now. It's and you like pushing yourself to do those things and still sticking to them. That right there is a sign of tawfiq from Allah as well. Right? It's a sign of tawfiq that you're chasing being a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than necessarily chasing a feeling. And even if that feeling is there, and inshallah that feeling comes and we get it once in a while and here and there, and maybe it becomes consistent at certain times and maybe it's here and maybe not there, but you're still sticking to what you need to stick to regardless of the feeling. So you become in that sense a true worshiper of Allah, or you're on that path of being a true worshiper of Allah rather than necessarily like a worshiper of a feeling. I don't know if that makes sense. You know what I'm talking about?
No, 100%. Yeah, for sure. Like, a lot of times people will be like, man, I don't know what you be talking about sometimes, because I go to my prayer and I'm just like, it's mechanical. It's like this task. It's boring, to stand behind the imam for a long time. And so I remember asking, one of the mashayikh about this, one of our teachers, and he said, not everything that's good for you feels good. And actually the things that, and they don't have to feel good from the beginning, like right now, let's say you're super, absolutely. And so there has to be this grind, there has to be this hustle, there has to be this spiritual conditioning. It's going to hurt sometimes. It's going to be tough sometimes. Sometimes you're not going to find the motivation to pray till 5 minutes before prayer, but it doesn't change the fact that you're headed in the right direction, and you're doing what needs to be done. And so there's a beauty in that, the fact that we're fighting for it, we're struggling for it, we're putting in the effort to attain that place. One time a brother came to me, Umar, in one of our Umrah trips. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the honor to make Umrah together, inshallah.
Amen.
Soon. And so he said, he said, I've been trying to cry to Allah. The imam's crying, the people next to me are crying. When I saw the Kaaba, I didn't cry. And he said, I'm struggling. And then what's funny actually is that he started crying about the fact that he couldn't cry. And so subhanAllah, I told him, bro, that's actually super beautiful that you're so sincere in wanting to be near to Allah, that your desperation to be near to Allah has led you to this point. The journey to Allah is the beauty. It's the part that, it's the fact that our hearts became hard and we purify them, we cleanse them, we're scraping off that filth of arrogance, of ignorance, of heedlessness, of Quran is boring, but listening to music gets me lit and gets me popping. Fighting that and saying, no, I'm going to listen to the Quran because even though it's not bumping, it's what I need to hear. Even though it's not getting me, super hyped, that I'm still going to listen to it because I'm not worshiping my feelings. I'm not worshiping what gets me hyped. You know what I mean? And so understanding that is something so beautiful, because then when you reach to that place, you work so hard to be there. you've done so much to be where you're supposed to be.
For sure. Yeah, you remind me of something I just saw from Imran Salha, actually. He mentioned a quote. I don't know whose quote it was, but I liked it a lot. And he said that it's a quote of one of our scholars who said, "الشوق إلى العمل الصالح عمل صالح." Right? Like to desire, to want to do good is a good action in itself, and that's something that can motivate us too when maybe we fall short of our goals or fall short of living up to what we expected that we were going to do or whatever it may be, and just wanting to do good, right? Sincerely wanting to do good, that in and of itself is something that's good, right? That's a good deed, inshallah, and that's something that will be written for you. But then obviously, we do our best to follow through. We don't just say, yeah, I want to do good, and then you just, that was part of the whole thing. I was like, yeah. It's like, just sit back and don't do anything. Anyways, I'm struggling here without the comments because I don't know if
you got some hearts when you did that.
I got the hearts at least.
That's the indicator we'll take.
Yeah, but I don't want pity hearts now, Like, I feel like people give me the hearts. I'm okay with hearts, but like,
there's just
the heart. That's a pity heart right there.
Did you see that orange one that just came up with that?
Now they're coming like slowly, like, all right. Here, I know.
There you are.
I know how we can change that. What is this background? Nope, don't want to do that one.
Someone screenshot this right now.
I just wanted to, mix it. We got more. I'm not doing this for the hearts. I promise you. I'm just joking about the hearts. Just everyone take it easy.
There's an ayah I really was hoping we talk about tonight, which is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي.
Jamil. Actually, I wanted to do that next time, Tariq. I wanted to do that next time.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I wanted us to do all of the ones from Surah Al-Hujurat next time.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Because there's so many Ya ayyuhalladhina amanus in that surah. Like the surah is like Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, and it's just like that's like a preview. Give us the commercial. Go ahead. Coming soon after tomorrow.
Someone asked me today. They're like that ayah. Oh, you believe? Do not raise your voice over the voice of Prophet Muhammad. They're like every ayah of the Quran is relevant to us. Every ayah of the Quran was revealed with us in mind from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every ayah has a message for us. That ayah is like a very experiential type of ayah that says, do not raise your voice over the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How can we raise our voice over the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So there's actually literally books that are written about what it means in our context to raise our voice over the voice of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And so I look forward to that discussion that we talk about what it means to lower our voice to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Yeah, so I actually, wallah, that's beautiful that you bring that up, because I was looking at these and I saw like in Surah Al-Hujurat there's a bunch, right? Yeah. And then that surah is like known as the surah of manners, teaching us like how to build a community based off of proper etiquettes and manners, and that's something that we all need to work on. Right? And it's something that's so beautiful, and it really shows us how Islam refines us, and it teaches us the best way of being, positive, contributing members of society, and how to deal with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with ourselves, with each other, when we're beefing, all of those things. So I think that would be a good way to kind of wrap up this series. So we are having it, inshallah, right after tomorrow, right?
No, inshallah.
So that'll probably be that's Friday. That's Friday night. That's Friday night. Today's Wednesday night, right? This is where the comments would help us. Yeah, it's Wednesday night, so that would be Friday night. So that would probably be the last night of Ramadan, right?
No.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Inshallah. So that'll be a nice way to end it, inshallah. Let's see. We still have a few more minutes. Do you want to take the comments again? Oh, turn on the comments again, see if there's any questions.
Yeah, let's turn it
Are we
on.
scarred by the comments? Because I had one more ayah that I wanted just to mention briefly.
I turned on comments on my end.
Allah
we like positivity, very, very relatable. How can y'all keep us? Okay, never mind.
These are from before.
Sister Sanya is back. Oh, brother Ayman Iqbal, mashallah.
Allah yastur alayna.
Sheikh Umar, you had another ayah, please.
Yeah, so the last one that I wanted to mention was Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 105. Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 105. Uh-oh. I'm scared of these comments here. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu alaykum anfus. If you see them, come again, just turn off the comments. خلصنا من the comments هلا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم. عليكم أنفسكم لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم إلى الله مرجعكم جميعا فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. Right. So the reason I think this ayah actually kind of goes in the line of the two ayahs that we were talking about, because it's giving us something that we had talked about last time too. This idea of taking ownership of ourselves, of our relationship with Allah, of our deen. You know, عليكم أنفسكم. Right? Focus on yourselves. First and foremost, focus on yourselves. Worry about yourself. Worry about your own relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's your first priority. Right? And then what happens is someone may hear this and may think, okay, does that mean we can just say, like, you know, bump everyone else and just let me just focus on me, let the world burn around me? But that's actually that's a misunderstanding of this verse. And even this is a verse that was asked, I believe, by Abu Bakr to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he corrected this understanding that alaykum anfusakum doesn't mean that you just worry about yourself and that you let everything else around you burn, but that you focus on what you can control. So you're still doing the good, and you're still encouraging the good, and you're still doing your best to do islah and to correct what's happening around you in the capacity that you can, but you're responsible for your effort, right? As I think it was Sheikh Omar Sulaiman who said that. He said, we're not responsible for the results, but we're responsible for a responsible effort, right? But this idea of taking ownership of our spirituality and our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and focusing on ourselves. I think you're the one who said this last time, like, you can't give others to drink from an empty cup, right? Like, meaning you have to, there has to be a level of, especially if you're someone who's giving, you're someone who is working with others, helping others, you can't forget yourself too. You
Absolutely.
can't ignore your own relationship with Allah. But
spiritual self-care, right? This idea of taking care of ourselves. Also, I love something that you talked about that was so awesome, Sheikh Omar, may Allah bless you, is this idea of what can I control and what can I do about it, right? And so taking ownership of the things that we can control and recognizing how much of a responsibility we have towards our own spiritual selves. A lot of us have like this activism syndrome where we want to save the world, but have we saved ourselves in the process of trying to save the world? Are we more interested in seeing the growth of organizations and the growth of institutions, and we're less motivated to see the growth of ourselves? Ultimately, the number one thing that we're going to be accountable for is ourselves and our status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And that's why you find the very famous statement of our tradition, which is attributed to Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, where he said, "Hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu," right? Hold yourself accountable before you are held accountable, and also before you hold others accountable, and you think about everyone else. Let's think about holding ourselves accountable. Beautiful, beautiful ayah to really, and subhanallah, strong connection between that and the other ayat we talked about. Many of us, we want to see freedom and justice and all of these things across the world, and that's great. But in the process of fighting for these truths, we abandon the truth of our salah. thinking
sure.
that we're doing the world a favor by doing so. And in the reality, there's nothing that we need to work on saving and liberating and giving justice to more than ourselves by surrendering and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
For sure. Beautiful, beautiful. And again, this doesn't mean that we ignore what's happening around us, or we don't do what we've been doing in the activism and you know, being a source of benefit to others. No, that has to continue, of course. But like you said, I mean, there has to be, you can't forget about yourself in the process. You can't forget about yourself in the process. And Allah, فَاقِدُ الشَّيْء لَا يُعْطِيهِ. Right? The one who doesn't have something can't give it.
I said that to Hassan today. It was in a context that was insulting. But Jazakumullahu khairan, Sheikh Umar, for that ayah. That subhanAllah, I needed to hear that. This idea of taking charge of our spiritual wellness, taking charge of our spiritual accountability. Alaykum anfusakum. You are upon yourself. Take it upon yourself to lead yourself. We're either leading ourselves in a path that's leading us to Allah, or we're allowing that to take a backseat. And like Sheikh Umar said, it's not an all or nothing thing. It's a process. It's a struggle. It's a grind. And so to continue to recalibrate ourselves and take ourselves back to where we need to be, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. May Allah forgive us for our shortcomings, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to continuously improve.
Allahumma ameen.
I think that's a wrap. I think that's a wrap, Sheikh Tariq. We're almost at an hour on Facebook, which means that we're almost at an hour here. And I'd like to ask you again to end us with dua, please, man.
Please end us with a dua. Please end us with a dua.
It's all you. It's all you, homie. It's kind of like prayer today.
Please end us with a dua.
Yeah, so I like what Sania says, but again, I think we can balance the two. I don't think we should take this like idea of, you know, I can't do anything until I fully fix myself, because that's a lifetime journey. That's a lifetime journey. But we do have to prioritize our own spiritual health, and kind of, so I would say there's a balance between the two, but we're recognizing where we're at. But go ahead if you want to comment.
One of the mashayikh said it's like a bicycle. Both wheels need to be turning to move. Yes, self-care and the care of others. And you don't need to abandon one for the other to happen. Rather, both need to be happening simultaneously.
Jameel. Very good.
Allah, hey, everybody's counting. Sheikh Umar, you're gonna end this with the dua, inshallah.
I don't think everybody's commenting on that. I think that was 2 people.
I think I may have seen. Should I ask?
Okay. All right. Well, I'll end this with dua, inshallah. I think this is about to end anyway. I'm going to drag it, so that's like right when I start, it just cuts the live. Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. يا مقلب القلوب والأبصار ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. يا مقلب القلوب والأبصار ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. يا مقلب القلوب والأبصار ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. We ask you, O Allah, in this blessed night, in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, we ask you, O Allah, to guide us, to make us from the people who have received your mercy, to make us from the people who you have written as free from the fire of hell. We ask you, O Allah, in this blessed night, to accept from us all the good that we have done, to forgive us for the many sins that we have, to overlook the many shortcomings that we have. We ask you, O Allah, that all those who have passed away from our loved ones, from the ones that we know, from the Muslims, we ask you, O Allah, to have mercy on them, to forgive them, to enter them into the highest levels of Jannah. We ask you, O Allah, all those that are sick, O Allah, that you cure them. O Allah, that you make it easy for them. O Allah, that you give them a full cure after which there is no sickness. We ask you, O Allah, to accept us. We ask you, O Allah, to be pleased with us. We ask you, O Allah, to guide us. We ask you, O Allah, that you are pleased with us when we meet you, O Allah. We ask you, O Allah, to take us from this world while we say La ilaha illallah, while we are believers in you, O Allah, while we are from those who have your pleasure, from those who have your mercy, from those who are on your guidance. And we ask you, O Allah, to gather us and to join us with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions and our beloved ones in the highest levels of Jannah. We ask you, O Allah, to purify our hearts from hypocrisy, to purify our tongues from any evil, from any ill speech. And we ask you, O Allah, to purify our hearts also from any evil. We ask you, O Allah, to guide us. We ask you, O Allah, to guide by us. We ask you, O Allah, to make us keys to open up the doors of goodness. And we ask you, O Allah, to make us keys to close the doors of evil. Forgive us, have mercy on us, guide us. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. We're off Instagram?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Jamil. Okay. So we're going to end here, inshallah, as well. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you, guys. Inshallah, we'll see you Friday night.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.